While I got pulled over by a cop, he said, "Wouldn't you rather drive straight to the hospital?" I was driving home from my girlfriend Amy's apartment around midnight when red and blue lights flashed behind me. I pulled over on the empty highway, confused because I hadn't been speeding. The cop walked up slowly, shining his flashlight into my car, but instead of asking for license and registration, he stared at me with this weird expression. "Sir, are you aware you're bleeding?" he asked. I looked down at my shirt, clean, checked my hands, nothing. "I'm not bleeding, officer." He kept staring at my face. "Wouldn't you rather drive straight to the hospital? There's one about 3 miles up the road." I told him I felt fine, that I didn't need a hospital. He seemed frustrated, like I wasn't understanding something obvious. He asked where I was coming from, and I said my girlfriend's place. He asked her name and address, which felt strange for a traffic stop. When I hesitated, he wrote something in his notepad and told me to drive carefully. Then he got back in his cruiser and just sat there, watching me. I drove away, checking my rear view every few seconds. The cop followed me for 2 miles before finally turning off. My phone rang immediately. It was Amy, which was odd because she never called this late. She always texted, "Hey, did you make it home okay?" Her voice sounded strained. "Still driving." Weird thing just happened though. Cop pulled me over and asked if I wanted to go to the hospital. Long pause. Why would he ask that? No idea. Said I was bleeding, but I'm completely fine. Another pause. Even longer. "Maybe you should go get checked out just to be safe." I laughed it off, told her the cop was probably having a weird night. She said okay and hung up quickly. Too quickly. When I got home, my roommate Derek was still awake, playing video games in the living room. He glanced up when I walked in, and his face went white. The controller dropped from his hands. "Dude, what the hell happened to you?" "What do you mean?" He pointed at me, his hand shaking. "Your neck, man. Did someone attack you?" I went to the bathroom mirror. My neck looked completely normal, but Derek followed me and stood in the doorway, staring with this horrified expression. "Are you messing with me right now?" he asked. "Because this isn't funny. You need to go to the hospital." I wasn't messing with anyone. I'd been sober all night, but Derek kept insisting something was seriously wrong, saying he didn't want to describe what he was seeing because it would freak me out more. He just kept repeating that I needed emergency medical attention. My phone buzzed. Text from Amy. "Please go to the hospital. I'm really worried." Then another from my mom. Bizarre because she was always asleep by 9 p.m. "Honey, Derek just called me. Please listen to him and get help." I called her back. She answered immediately, voice shaking. She said Derek had sent her a photo of me and she'd already called an ambulance. I could hear sirens in the distance, getting closer. "Mom, I'm fine. Whatever Derek showed you, I'm not hurt. Sweetie, you need to trust me. Don't look in any more mirrors. Don't touch your neck. Just wait for the ambulance." The sirens were on my street now. Derek was backing away from me slowly, his phone out, recording. I asked what he was doing, and he said he was documenting this in case something happened. "In case what happens?" "Derek, what is going on?" He turned his phone screen toward me, the video he was recording. I could see myself standing in the hallway, but something was wrong with the image, something that made every muscle in my body freeze. Because what I saw in that recording revealed everything. The rest of the story is on my channel, or linked below. I stare at Derek's phone screen, my mouth going dry. The video shows me standing in the hallway, but my neck has 3 deep, jagged slashes across it. They run from ear to ear, exposing muscle, and what looks like my windpipe. Blood flows steadily from the wounds, soaking the collar of my shirt. "What the fuck?" I whisper, reaching up to touch my neck. My fingers find only smooth, unbroken skin. Derek pulls the phone away. "Don't look anymore. Just sit down and wait for the ambulance." I hear the front door burst open and paramedics rush in, their boots heavy on the hardwood floor. One takes one look at me and visibly pales. The other immediately opens a medical kit, pulling out gauze pads. "Sir, I need you to remain calm and sit down," the first paramedic says, her voice steady despite her expression. "We're going to help you." "I'm not hurt," I insist, but I sit down anyway. I don't feel anything. They exchange a glance I can't interpret. The male paramedic approaches with gauze pads. I'm going to apply pressure to control the bleeding. When he presses the gauze against my neck, I feel nothing but the pressure of his hands. No pain, no wetness. But when he pulls the gauze away, it's soaked with bright red blood. "This isn't possible," I say, my voice shaking now. They load me onto a stretcher despite my protests that I can walk. In the ambulance, I catch a glimpse of myself in a small mirror mounted on one of the cabinets. My reflection shows a perfectly normal neck, no wounds, no blood. "Can you see anything in the mirror?" I ask the female paramedic who's monitoring my vitals. She glances at the mirror, then back at me with concern. "Sir, try not to talk. Your injuries are severe. The ride to the hospital is surreal." The paramedics work frantically to stop my bleeding, applying pressure and hanging IV fluids, while I lie there feeling completely normal. Derek follows in his car, and I can see him through the back windows, driving too fast, his face tight with panic. At the hospital, they rush me into a trauma room. Doctors and nurses swarm around me, their faces showing the same horror I saw in Derek's eyes. A doctor in a white coat barks orders for blood transfusions and surgical consults. "I need someone to explain what's happening," I say, my voice rising. "I'm not hurt." The doctor pauses, looking at me with confusion. "Sir, you have extensive lacerations to your neck. We need to get you into surgery immediately." "Look," I say, sitting up despite their protests. I touch my neck, running my fingers along the smooth skin. There's nothing there. I can feel it. The doctor's expression shifts from urgency to bewilderment. He reaches out and his fingers press against my neck. I watch his face as he feels nothing but intact skin, yet his eyes see something entirely different. My mom bursts into the room then, her face streaked with tears. When she sees me, she lets out a wail that makes my blood run cold. "Oh my God, my baby!" she cries, rushing to my side. She tries to touch my face, but a nurse gently restrains her. "Mom, I'm okay," I say, reaching for her hand. I don't know what everyone's seeing, but I'm not hurt. Derek appears in the doorway, his phone still in his hand. "I have it all on video," he tells the doctor, who takes the phone and watches with growing confusion. The medical staff huddles in the corner, speaking in hushed tones. I catch phrases like mass hallucination and psychiatric consult. A new doctor enters, introduces himself as a neurologist. He examines me, shining a light in my eyes, testing my reflexes. "Can you swallow for me?" he asks, watching my throat intently. hesitantly. I do. Any pain? Difficulty breathing? None, I say. I feel completely normal. This is impossible, he mutters, more to himself than to me. By all appearances, your trachea is severed. You shouldn't be able to breathe, let alone speak. The door opens again, and Amy rushes in, her face pale and tear-stained. When she sees me, she stops dead, her hand flying to her mouth. You can see it too? I ask her. She nods, unable to speak for a moment. Then she approaches slowly, as if afraid I might disappear. I saw it earlier, she whispers, at my apartment, right before you left. I thought I was hallucinating. The room goes silent. Everyone stares at her. What do you mean, you saw it earlier? My mom asks. Amy looks at me, her eyes wide with fear. You were getting ready to leave. I walked into the bathroom and saw you standing at the sink. Your neck was, just like it is now. But when I blinked, it was gone. I convinced myself I was tired, that my eyes were playing tricks. Why didn't you say something? I demand. Because it disappeared. I thought I was seeing things. Her voice breaks. Then when you called about the cop, I just knew. The doctors order an MRI, insisting they need to understand what's happening. In the imaging room, the technician keeps looking between me and the monitor, his expression increasingly confused. When they wheel me back to the trauma room, a heated argument is underway. We can't operate on wounds that don't physically exist, one doctor insists. But they're clearly visible, another counters. The bleeding is real. Look at the gauze. Derek steps forward, holding up his phone. You need to see this, he says, pressing play on the video he's been recording. On the screen, I'm lying on the hospital bed. The wounds on my neck are clearly visible, blood flowing steadily from them. As we watch, the blood flow seems to increase, running down my neck and pooling beneath me. That's not possible, the neurologist says, looking between the screen and me. The blood loss alone should have. He doesn't finish the sentence, but I know what he means. The person in that video should be dead. The trauma surgeon makes a decision. Prep for emergency surgery. I don't care if we can feel the wounds or not. What we're seeing is real enough. Wait, the neurologist interrupts. The MRI showed no damage, no trauma whatsoever. His trachea, carotid arteries, jugular veins, all intact. Whatever this is, it's not a standard physical injury. My mom sits beside me, clutching my hand. There has to be an explanation, she says, her voice trembling. Amy stands at the foot of the bed, her eyes never leaving my face. There is, she says quietly, but you're not going to believe it. Before she can continue, a nurse bursts in. Doctor, his blood work just came back. Everything's normal. Hemoglobin, hematocrit, he's not losing blood at all, despite what we're seeing. The room falls silent again as everyone tries to process this impossible information. I look at Amy, whose expression has shifted from fear to grim determination. We need to talk, she says to me, alone. The doctors are reluctant to leave, but eventually they step out to consult with specialists, leaving just my mom, Derek, Amy, and me. What's happening to me? I ask Amy, my voice barely above a whisper. She takes a deep breath. It started at my apartment, she says. Before you left tonight, something happened that you don't remember. The doctors finally released me around 3 a.m. after hours of tests that reveal absolutely nothing wrong with me physically. No one can explain why everyone else sees horrific neck wounds while I feel perfectly fine. The attending physician signs my discharge papers with visible reluctance, his eyes never leaving my neck. I'm still not comfortable with this, he tells me, handing over the clipboard. Whatever is happening is beyond my medical understanding. Amy stands beside me, her fingers intertwined with mine. She hasn't let go of my hand since she arrived at the hospital. I'll take care of him, she promises. He won't be alone. I just want to go home, I say, exhausted. You're coming to my place, Amy says firmly. No arguments. Derek and my mom are waiting in the hallway. Mom's eyes are red and puffy from crying, and she keeps staring at my neck with a mixture of horror and disbelief. I'll call you tomorrow, I tell her, giving her a hug. She holds me tight, like she's afraid I might disappear. I don't understand any of this, she whispers. That makes two of us, I reply. The ride to Amy's apartment is silent. Derek drives while Amy sits in the back seat with me, still clutching my hand. I catch him glancing at me in the rearview mirror every few seconds, his eyes wide and worried. You can see it too, can't you? I ask. Right now? Derek nods slowly. It looks like someone tried to kill you, man. Like really brutally. I touch my neck again, feeling nothing but smooth skin. But there's nothing there. I can feel it. Amy's grip on my hand tightens. We'll figure this out, she says. But there's something in her voice that makes me think she already knows more than she's telling me. When we arrive at Amy's apartment, Derek helps bring my overnight bag up from the car. At the door, he gives me an awkward hug. Call me if you need anything, he says. Literally anything, anytime. After he leaves, Amy locks the door behind us and leans against it, her face pale in the dim light of her apartment. You need to tell me what you know, I say. At the hospital, you said you saw these wounds before I left tonight. What did you mean? Amy takes a deep breath. Let's sit down. She leads me to her couch and pulls out her phone. Her hands are shaking as she scrolls through her photos. I took this earlier tonight, she says, handing me the phone. Before you left my apartment. The photo shows me standing in her bathroom, looking in the mirror. My neck has the exact same wounds everyone has been seeing, 3 deep, jagged slashes. In the photo, blood is dripping down my shirt collar. I don't remember this, I say, staring at the image. I don't remember you taking any photos. You wouldn't, Amy says quietly. Because when I walked in and saw you like that, I screamed. You turned around and looked at me, but your eyes were wrong, empty. Then you collapsed on the bathroom floor. My mouth goes dry. What are you saying? What? I thought you were dead, she whispers, tears filling her eyes. There was so much blood, and you weren't breathing. I was about to call 911 when you suddenly gasped and sat up. The wounds were gone. You acted like nothing had happened, like you just lost your balance or something. That's impossible, I say. But even as the words leave my mouth, I know we've long passed the boundaries of what's possible. I convinced myself I was seeing things, Amy continues. You seemed fine. You got ready to leave, and I was too scared to say anything. I thought I was having some kind of breakdown. I hand her phone back, my mind racing. We need to find that cop, Officer Martinez. He saw it too, before anyone else. Amy nods. I know someone at the police department. We can call in the morning. We don't sleep much that night. Amy insists I take her bed while she stays on the couch, but neither of us can really rest. Every time I close my eyes, I see the image from her phone, my own face, looking back with dead eyes and a mutilated neck. In the morning, Amy makes calls while I shower. When I come out, she's sitting at her kitchen table with a notepad full of scribbled notes. I found him, she says. Officer Ramon Martinez. He's working today. My friend gave me his direct number. Martinez agrees to meet us during his lunch break at a diner near the police station. He's younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, with dark dark circles under his eyes like he hasn't slept well. When he sees me walk in, he freezes, his hand instinctively moving toward his service weapon before he catches himself. Jesus, he mutters as we sit down across from him. You're still like that. You can see it? I ask. He nods grimly. Clear as day. Looks like someone took a box cutter to your throat. Tell me exactly what happened last night, I say. When you pulled me over? Martinez rubs his face. I was running radar on Highway 16 around 11:30. Saw your car doing about 15 over, so I pulled you over. Standard traffic stop. But when I approached your vehicle and shined my flashlight in, I saw, he gestures to my neck, that I thought you were driving while actively bleeding out. But I wasn't speeding, I say. I never speed. That's the thing, Martinez says, leaning forward. After you drove away, I checked the radar log. There was no record of your car. Nothing. Like I never pulled anyone over. Amy and I exchange glances. There's more, Martinez continues. After I let you go, I got 3 separate 911 calls about a dead man driving on Highway 16. 3 different drivers reported seeing someone with fatal neck wounds behind the wheel of a car matching your description. My skin goes cold. What does it mean? Martinez shakes his head. I don't know. In 20 years of law enforcement, I've never seen anything like this. But, he hesitates. But what? Amy presses. My grandmother was curandera, a healer in our community. She would say you're caught between worlds. Not fully here, not fully elsewhere. The drive back to Amy's apartment is tense. She keeps glancing at me like she's afraid I might disappear. Do you believe what he said? I ask. About being caught between worlds? I think we need to consider all possibilities right now, she replies carefully. As we approach her apartment door, I notice something strange symbols drawn in what looks like chalk along the doorframe. They're faint, as if someone tried to wipe them away. Were these here before? I ask, pointing. Amy stares at the markings, her face draining of color. No, someone's been here. Her neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Patel, opens her door as we're examining the symbols. Oh, you're back, she says to Amy. Did your friend find what they were looking for? Amy tenses beside me. What friend? The person in the dark hoodie, Mrs. Patel says. They came by last night, said. You asked them to pick something up from your apartment. I thought it was strange so late, but they knew your name. Amy unlocks her door with shaking hands, pushing it open cautiously. Nothing seems disturbed at first glance, but she immediately goes to her bedroom and drops to her knees, pulling a wooden box from under her bed. It's still here, she says with relief, clutching the box to her chest. What is that? I ask. Instead of answering, Amy opens her closet and pushes aside hanging clothes, revealing a corkboard covered in papers, printouts, and strange symbols that match the ones on her door. Amy, what is all this? She turns to me, tears in her eyes. I didn't want you to find out this way. She opens the wooden box and pulls out a leather-bound journal. As she flips through it, I see pages of handwritten notes, diagrams of occult symbols, and what look like ritual instructions. There's something I need to tell you about last night, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. About what really happened in my bathroom before you left. I stare at the journal in Amy's hands, trying to process what she's telling me. The occult symbols on her corkboard look like something from a horror movie, intricate diagrams drawn in what looks like red ink. Last night in the bathroom, Amy says, her voice barely above a whisper. You died. The words hang in the air between us, impossible yet somehow making a terrible kind of sense. That's not possible, I say automatically. I'm right here. Amy sits on the edge of her bed, clutching the journal to her chest. You slipped, hit your head on the sink, and then she swallows hard. Your neck caught on the broken towel rack when you fell. The metal edge, it cut through everything. I touch my neck instinctively, feeling nothing but smooth skin while knowing everyone else sees something very different. I watched you bleed out in seconds, Amy continues, tears streaming down her face now. You weren't breathing. You had no pulse. You were gone. Then how am I here? My voice sounds distant to my own ears. Amy opens the journal, turning to a page marked with a red ribbon. I've been studying certain practices for years, since my brother died. She looks up at me. I never told you about him because it was too painful. He drowned when I was 15. I couldn't save him. The pieces start falling into place. Her strange book collection, the unexplained absences, the wooden box she guards so carefully. You did something to me, I say slowly. Some kind of ritual. She nods. A temporary resurrection. It creates a window, a space between death and whatever comes after. But it's not permanent. She looks at her watch. We have until midnight. That's when the ritual ends. My stomach drops. What happens at midnight? You go back to being dead, she says simply. Unless we can find a way to make it permanent. I sit down hard on the floor, my legs suddenly unable to support me. This is insane. The wounds everyone sees are your actual death injuries, Amy explains. They're visible to everyone else because you're not fully alive. You're caught between worlds, just like Officer Martinez said. So I'm what, a ghost? A zombie? You're you, Amy says fiercely. Just temporarily. The ritual creates a window of opportunity, but it's closing fast. I look at my watch. It's just past 2 p.m. Less than 10 hours left. There has to be a way, I say, desperation creeping into my voice. We can go to a hospital, get real medical help. They can't help with this, Amy interrupts. They couldn't even see your wounds properly. This isn't medical, it's metaphysical. She stands up and starts gathering items from around her room. Candles, small cloth bags, the journal. We need to go to the place where I got the ritual materials. The woman who sold them to me might know how to make this permanent. The occult shop is tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop in a part of town I've never visited. The sign above the door simply reads, Crossroads, in faded gold letters. A bell jingles as we enter, and the smell hits me immediately. Incense, herbs, and something else I can't identify. An elderly woman looks up from behind the counter. When she sees me, her eyes widen, and I know instantly that she can see the wounds too. Amelia, she says to Amy, her voice carrying a slight accent I can't place. You actually did it. I had no choice, Vera. Amy replies. He was dead. Vera comes around the counter slowly, her eyes never leaving my neck. You've brought trouble into my shop, she says, but there's no anger in her voice, only a deep weariness. We need your help, Amy pleads. The ritual ends at midnight, as it should, Vera says firmly. Death is not something to be cheated, girl. There is always a price. I'll pay whatever price, Amy insists. Just tell us how to make it permanent. Vera studies me for a long moment. The price is not yours to pay, she says finally. It's his. She points a gnarled finger at me. And you don't even know what you're agreeing to. Tell me then, I say, stepping forward. What's the price? Balance, Vera says simply. The universe demands balance. For you to live when you should be dead, someone else must die when they should live. Amy's face goes pale. You You mean a sacrifice, Vera confirms. Willing or unwilling, that's the only way. No, I say immediately. I won't trade someone else's life for mine. Then you die at midnight, Vera says with a shrug. As you were meant to yesterday. Amy grabs my arm. There has to be another way. Some kind of, I don't know, partial payment? Something less than a life? Vera considers this, tapping her fingers against the counter. There is one possibility, she says slowly. A life debt. Years taken, not the whole life. What does that mean? I ask. Someone willingly gives up years of their life to extend yours, Vera explains. It's painful for the giver. They age rapidly for the transfer to work, and it must be done exactly at the moment the original ritual ends. Amy steps forward without hesitation. I'll do it. Amy, no. I start to protest, but she cuts me off. This is my fault, she says fiercely. I did this ritual without understanding the consequences. I'm not letting you die again. Vera gives us detailed instructions for a counter ritual, writing symbols in Amy's journal and packaging herbs and candles in a small cloth bag. As we're leaving, she grabs my arm. The dead do not belong among the living, she warns. Even if you succeed, there will be echoes, shadows that follow you. The boundary between worlds thins around those who have crossed it. Back at Amy's apartment, we spend hours preparing. Amy draws symbols on the floor with chalk, arranges candles in specific patterns, and recites phrases from Vera's instructions. As evening approaches, the air in the apartment feels heavier, charged with something I can't explain. Are you sure about this? I ask Amy for the 100th time, giving up years of your life. I'm sure, she says, not looking up from the symbols she's drawing. I'd give all of them to save you. At 11:30 p.m., with just 30 minutes until midnight, the temperature in the apartment suddenly drops. I can see my breath forming clouds in the air, and the candle flames flicker wildly despite there being no draft. It's starting, Amy whispers, looking around nervously. They're coming. Who's coming? I ask, but even as the words leave my mouth, I see them shadowy figures forming in the corners of the room, their outlines blurry and shifting like smoke. The guardians of the boundary, Amy explains, her voice tight with fear. They don't want to let you stay. The shadows grow more substantial as midnight approaches, moving across the walls and ceiling. I feel a pressure in my chest, like something is trying to pull me away. Now, Amy says, checking her watch. It's time. She takes my hands and we stand in the center of the chalk symbols. As she begins reciting the words from the journal, the shadows converge around us, their formless bodies pressing closer. I offer my ears, Amy says, her voice strong despite her fear. Take from me what is needed to balance the scales. The shadows surge forward all at once, and Amy screams as they pass through her body. I try to pull her away, but our hands are locked together by some invisible force. Her face contorts in pain, and before my eyes, I see fine lines appear at the corners of her eyes, spreading across her skin like cracks in glass. The clock on Amy's wall strikes midnight, and everything goes black. I wake up gasping for air, my hand flying to my throat where I feel something that shouldn't be there. A thick bandage wrapped around my neck. The pain hits a second later, sharp and burning, like someone took a hot knife to my skin. Easy. Amy's voice comes from somewhere nearby. Don't touch it. My vision clears slowly, and I realize I'm lying on Amy's bed. Sunlight filters through her curtains, casting the room in a soft glow that feels wrong somehow, too normal for what's happening. The wounds. I croak, my voice raspy and weak. They're real now. Amy nods, her face haggard with exhaustion. There are new lines around her eyes and mouth that weren't there before, fine creases that make her look years older. The ritual worked, but not how we expected. I try to sit up and immediately regret it as pain lances through my neck. Amy helps me, supporting my back as I lean against the headboard. What happened? I ask, wincing with each word. You've been unconscious for 3 days, she says, brushing hair from my forehead with a tenderness that makes my chest ache. After the ritual, the shadows, they did something. When they vanished, your wounds became physical, real, but that means I should be dead, I say, reaching up to feel the bandage again. These cuts, they were fatal. Amy's eyes fill with tears. You almost were. I called an ambulance right away. The paramedics couldn't understand how you were still alive with those injuries. They said your carotid artery was partially severed, your trachea damaged. You should have bled out in minutes. The door opens and Derek walks in, carrying a tray with what looks like soup and tea. When he sees me awake, he nearly drops it. Holy shit, he says, setting the tray down hastily. You're actually conscious. How long have you been here? I ask him. Since Amy called me 3 days ago, he says, looking between us. Man, I thought you were gone for real this time. The doctors at the hospital kept saying it was medically impossible for you to survive those injuries. I look at Amy, questions forming faster than I can ask them. The hospital let me leave with these injuries? They wanted to keep you, she explains. But after the first day, something strange happened. The wounds started healing at an accelerated rate. The surgeon said she'd never seen anything like it. By the second day, they were stable enough that I convinced them to let me bring you home. Derek pulls out his phone. I've been documenting everything, he says, showing me photos of myself in a hospital bed, my neck wrapped in blood-soaked bandages, tubes and wires connecting me to machines. The doctors kept coming in to take pictures. One of them mentioned writing a medical journal article about your case. I stare at the images, trying to reconcile them with what I'm feeling now. The pain is real, but somehow distant, like it belongs to someone else. We need to go back to the hospital, I say. These injuries. We can't, Amy interrupts, her voice firm. Not yet. There's something you need to know first. She pulls back her sleeve, revealing a hospital bracelet of her own. Her skin looks different, paler, thinner somehow, with a translucency that reminds me of tissue paper. The price, I whisper, remembering Vera's warning. What happened to you? The ritual worked, she says simply. I gave years of my life to save yours, but there was a complication. Derek shifts uncomfortably. The doctors diagnosed her with some rare, rapid onset condition. They're calling it accelerated cellular degeneration. In simple terms, Amy continues, I'm dying. My body is aging from the inside out. They gave me 6 months, maybe less. The weight of her words hits me like a physical blow. No, I say, reaching for her hand. There has to be a way to reverse it. I've been researching while you were unconscious, she says, squeezing my fingers. There might be. A knock at the door interrupts us. Derek goes to answer it, and I hear a familiar voice in the hallway. A moment later, Officer Martinez steps into the bedroom, his eyes widening when he sees me awake. You made it, he says, sounding genuinely surprised. When I heard about your condition, I didn't think. Why are you here? I ask. Martinez glances at Amy, who nods encouragingly. Because what happened to you happened to me once, he says quietly. 5 years ago. shadow. He pulls down the collar of his uniform shirt, revealing a jagged scar across his collarbone. Car accident. Pronounced dead at the scene. Then I woke up in the morgue with everyone telling me it was impossible. You crossed over, I say, understanding dawning, and came back. He nods. My grandmother performed a ritual similar to what Amy did for you. I've been different since then. I see things others don't, feel things. The boundary between worlds is thinner for people like us. That's why you became a cop, Amy says. You were looking for others. There are more of us than you'd think, Martinez confirms. People who've crossed back. Most don't remember how it happened, but they all describe the same experience, seeing their fatal injuries while feeling perfectly fine. I try to process this information, but my head is spinning. The doctors, I say. What did they say about my survival? Amy and Derek exchange glances. They're calling it a medical miracle, Derek says. The trauma surgeon who worked on you, Dr. Patel, she asked for your autograph when she discharged you. Said she'd never seen anyone survive injuries like yours. But that's not the strangest part. Amy adds, your blood work came back with anomalies, proteins they couldn't identify, cellular structures that don't match normal human physiology. What does that mean? I ask, dread pooling in my stomach. It means you're not entirely here, Martinez says bluntly. Part of you is still on the other side, and that part is what's keeping you alive. Over the next few weeks, as I recover enough to move around, Amy and I dive deeper into research. Martinez introduces us to others, like me, a college professor who drowned, a firefighter who was crushed in a building collapse, a teenage girl who fell from a cliff. All of them died and came back through various means, and all of them carry markers of their experience. Meanwhile, Amy's condition worsens. The doctors run test after test, baffled by her rapid deterioration. I spend my nights researching occult texts, desperate to find a way to reverse what she did. I don't regret it, she tells me one evening as we sit on her couch, surrounded by books and printouts. Even if we can't fix this, we will fix it, I insist, though my voice lacks conviction. There has to be a balance, right? That's what Vera said. If I'm getting better, maybe there's a way to redirect that healing to you. Amy smiles weakly. Maybe. 6 months later, something unexpected happens. Amy's condition stabilizes. The doctors can't explain it by all their predictions. She should be dead. Instead, her cellular degeneration simply stops. It's like your body reached an equilibrium. Dr. Patel tells her during a checkup. I insist on attending. Whatever was attacking your system has gone dormant. Later that night, as we walk along the river near Amy's apartment, Martinez meets us with news. I found others, he says without preamble. People who've studied the boundaries between worlds for decades. They think what's happening to both of you is connected to balance being struck naturally. What does that mean for us? Amy asks, her hand finding mine in the darkness. Martinez looks out over the water. It means you've both got one foot in this world and one in the next, and that might not be as bad as it sounds. I touch the scars on my neck, now healed into thick, ropey lines. We need to understand it better. Amy nods. Determination, replacing the resignation I've seen in her eyes for months. We will, together. As we walk back to her apartment, I notice shadows moving at the edge of my vision, not threatening like before, but watchful. Reminders of the boundary we've crossed, and the price we've paid to stay on this side of it. Do you see them too? I ask Amy quietly. She squeezes my hand. Always, since that night. We've dedicated ourselves to understanding what happened to us, to mapping the boundaries between worlds that most people never glimpse. There are others out there like us, people caught between life and death, carrying markers of their journey. And sometimes, late at night when the world is quiet, I can still feel the pull of whatever waits on the other side. Not calling me back, not yet, but reminding me that my time here was borrowed, then earned at a price neither Amy nor I fully understood. But we're learning, together.